Hello and welcome. This is the After Credits Podcast, and this is our second episode after our comeback tour. Today we are doing our film diary. We kind of integrate this into normal episodes every week, but now this is the first episode where we don't really have a main event, so we're just going to bring up films we've watched since we did the last episode, which was our comeback episode. So that was our roundup of everything we'd seen since September last year, and this is the films we've seen since that episode. So this will be a regular format for us going forward, and then usually we'll have a main event, but as I say, we've not had that today. There will be spoilers for the following films in this episode. Spoilers for what films we're going to talk about. Longlegs, A Quiet Place Day 1, and any other films you guys are going to talk about?
No, that's it. For me anyway, I think.
Maybe if we have time, Death Proof. So possibly Death Proof, Longlegs, and Quiet Place Day 1. So if you plan on seeing any of those films, there will be spoilers in this episode. Why don't you take us away on A Quiet Place, Robert? Come on down.
Sure. So have all three of us seen Quiet Place?
Yes. Yeah, we've all seen it.
Okay, cool. So I say let's start on what I thought was good. So overall, I gave this film, when I came out the cinema, I gave it 7.5. But the more I've thought about it, I'd give it a 7.
Okay.
I still thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
Remind me to come back to the
What, sorry?
It doesn't matter. Just keep going. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. I also would say it's the weakest out of the three, but not that it's bad. I still think it's great. But I really enjoyed the characters. I thought all the characters bar one were brilliant. I loved the character development, but no one spoke, and I loved that. I thought they did that really well, and I felt that this one was more of a fun film where I could sit back and enjoy it, and I wasn't stressed out as much as the other two, which also is a negative, but I liked it. And the big praise.
Sorry to interrupt. If that doesn't sum up your your reviews of films, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
It wasn't very good, but I liked it.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm a hot take film guy. But my favorite thing about the film, which most films I hate, was actually the CGI. I thought the CGI was brilliant in this film, and I didn't feel that any scenes took me out once. I was fully immersed in it, so I was really happy about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have anything.
I just had a couple. So, since we're just in spoilers from the get go. So, what's knocked it down 0.5%? 0.5 since you came out the cinema then.
Okay, so I think when I look back at the first one, the whole concept of the first one is absolutely brilliant, and it's a really creepy / scary film. But I love the cast was so small, right? But I didn't feel that they were stupid, and I didn't feel that there was unnecessary moments in it. But with this one, I felt that not a lot, but some of the characters, because there's not, some of the characters just did things where I was like, all right, they're just telling another horror zombie type film, where there wasn't anything kind of special about it.
Like manufactured tension or conflict.
Yeah, and like for example, right, what horror film, not horror film, what zombie / apocalyptic film doesn't have a scene when someone has to go to the pharmacy? I get it. It's it's fine. It's it tells the story, and I understand. The main character has cancer and she's dying, but it's every apocalyptic type zombie weird film. They always have these tropes that they have to do, and it's kind of weird. And I just thought it was like there's just some things that was unnecessary. So like pondering it a bit more, I was kind of like, I don't think it deserves the 7.5.
Okay.
Just because it kind of just hits that basic hero story that you could pull another film from and go, oh, that scene's been copied and pasted. Well, I think the other two, I personally think you couldn't do that as much.
Okay. One more thing, and then we'll hear from Brandon as well. What is the character that you didn't think was? You mentioned something about a character a minute
Yes.
ago.
Okay. So in Quiet Place 2, I forget the actor's name, but I love him dearly, and he returns in this one.
The guy from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Honsu, yeah.
What's his name? Sorry.
It's a strange. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. It's Djimon Jimon Honsu. I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced. Jimon.
Yeah, sounds right.
Jimon Honsu.
Right. Jimon.
Yeah.
So I love his character and I love him as an actor, and I thought he was really good in this film as he was to a point in A Quiet Place Part 2, but it made me hate him more, his death more in A Quiet Place Part 2, because I'm like, how can you survive this, know everything you know, and have the whole like, oh, I know to be silent. I've seen all these people do all these, like, make noise, and I've seen people die. I've killed someone, and then for him to go, oh, I can't remember what he says, and then just gets like killed immediately, and at part 2, and it's just kind of like, oh, I hate him. I hate how he dies even more now because he's this really like smart guy. But then you could also be devil's advocate and, talk about how like, oh, well, he's comfortable now. Like they've been away from them from so long. Like, has he lost that kind of situation where he like knows how to handle this kind of stuff? But for me, I was like, I hate his death even more. And so that really upset me. It was like a pro and a...
I should say I haven't seen the second Quiet Place. I've seen the first one, but I haven't seen the second one. So I didn't even realize he was a character from a previous film until after I finished this film. Because I had a big complaint about him. Not a big complaint, but just a complaint. I was like, this is such a great actor, and he has nothing to do in this film. And I guess that makes sense if it's just setting up something else. But yeah, I didn't understand really why he was there, considering his like star power, I guess. Even though I think he has some really great scenes in this film, especially the one when like his kid is watching him on the roof and he like kills that guy. That was really, really well done. I really liked that.
That was a really good scene.
But yeah, anything from you on that, Brandon? Well, I think we'll stick to positives just now, and then we'll maybe go into some more negative stuff.
Positives. Yeah. Positives. Acting pretty good throughout, I think. I don't think there's any weak people.
I thought I forget his name, but Joseph. Is it Joseph Quinn? I think that's his name.
Yep.
I thought he was the highlight for acting in this film. I thought, for me personally.
Yeah, I'm impartial. I think Lupita Nyong'o was good without speaking. Like, not to say she was bad when she was speaking, but like when she was good with her just facial reactions and body language.
Yeah,
when it was the quiet scenes, which in this type of film is almost more important because you're not supposed to be speaking. So yeah, acting was pretty good throughout. CGI was fine. I'm not gonna like praise it. It's pretty standard. I'm not gonna be like, oh, so good. Yeah, like, I mean, like, to sum up, like, I think it's a pretty mid film for me. So I don't necessarily have any hard negatives, but that also comes with like not a lot of hard positives either. I'm honestly trying to think. There was like the odd good couple of scenes, like you said, the one with I think his name's Henry from based on his IMDb. Henry, the guy we were just talking about, Gmon. That scene was really good. Although I hate characters that are like screaming in an apocalypse situation like that, and there has to be a guy to like take them down because it's like, bruh, like, so selfish.
That's what I mean, right? How like this film kind of does like tropes that we've seen in other films.
Yeah, it's pretty generic.
Yeah.
Throughout. What I did like a lot was the sort of setup, which was kind of similar to the part two, where we get to see like this the start of it kind of thing, and to see how like the government dealt with it, because that was something I didn't even consider honestly when I first went in. To be like, oh yeah, like they probably like shut off all the bridges and stuff to like prevent them from spreading, but they spread anyway, right? So I don't know how they. Well, I suppose they landed all over the world, so it's not just New York or wherever it was. Oh, you know what? My favorite thing, and it's such like a minor thing, and it's right at the start of the film, and it was the little description saying New York has like is this loud on average throughout the day, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it just like goes to silence, and it's like essentially like you're like, all right, that's what it sounds like now in this film. And it's just like kind of like the complete difference. It's set in like the most noisy city in the world, yet it has to be quiet to survive, kind of thing. I actually really like that because it kind of like instantly put me in that sort of perspective of like the characters, kind of thing. So I really like that, which is funny because it was like the very first thing in the movie. Um, but yeah, there's not really many crazy positives unless you guys remind me of some.
I will just
Um,
bounce off of what you just said. I
yeah,
think
go for it.
just because you said it, it's a slight negative. I don't think they took full advantage of the idea that New York is very loud. Like they said, like it's 90 decibels on average. I don't
Yeah,
think they took. I think there was two major scenes where they did take advantage of that fact, and those are the generator scene and the scene where everyone's kind of walking down the street at the same time. Those are really
Yeah.
the only two times where I felt like that justifies setting this in New York, I guess. I don't think it. I think it could have done more maybe in that to be like, oh, in the city there are different challenges you're going to face when you have to be quiet. Because like one thing that kind of bothered me a little bit is like they show them walking in sand in the first film, but in this film everyone's wearing shoes. Whereas I would have liked, because everyone's on pavement, right? It would have been nice to see everyone like walking on socks instead or something like that. I just thought it was a bit strange
But
that
then
everyone's in shoes.
I think the issue with that would be then is like this is set in like what, day one or like week
Well,
one? Like it's like the first like few days of it,
that's a
right?
valid criticism up until we come to our negatives. So we'll bookmark that
Yeah.
one. But yes, you'll know. I think you know what I'm going to talk about. But
Yeah.
I have quite a few major positives. I think the bit where the monsters, where the bit where the helicopters come over. In fact, this is exactly what you're talking about. The bit where the helicopters come over and say, "Everyone, be quiet! Shut the fuck up!" And then I was sitting in the cinema and I was like, "Bro, that would be so cool if like a wave of these creatures followed the helicopter." And then I heard the rumble and I was like, "Yes, yes!" And it happened, and it was really sick. And the reason it was really sick is because you didn't see a single fucking one of them. It was just audible. It was just audio and like the rumbling of the camera, and it was shot really well, and it sounded incredible, and it really, really put me in the mood for like, oh, this is the type of film. And unfortunately, it doesn't really do that anymore for the rest of the film, but we'll get to that in negatives. But that scene where the helicopter comes over a few times, that's absolutely my highlight of the film. It was fucking awesome. At least my favorite aspect of the monsters in the film. I think I have here that like the non-verbal character moments are all really positive, but none of them. I don't feel like all of them really contribute to like they're not strung together in a particularly meaningful way, apart from her like cancer kind of plot point. They can't like there's a few things just kind of I'm trying to think what just happens,
So
but like the kids and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of stuff with the kids. Like she finds the kids and she helps them, and then they just kind of go. I kind of like the aspect of just like, oh, she helped someone and then they just disappeared into the crowd. I like that, but like there's a few things in this film where it's like I feel like there was a bit of a second act lull, so a lot of that stuff maybe contributes to that, where it's like it's not particularly necessary to the plot, but at the end of the day, it is kind of just a go from point A to point B plot, so you're allowed those things.
Yeah.
But I think generally, like you say, like all the non-verbal communication and like acting they're doing is pretty good. Like
I really enjoyed it. Like, see this scene where they go to the bar that like her dad used to play the piano, I believe, and then he like finds pizza and all that.
oh yeah, we'll get to that.
Like, I really liked that scene personally. I really liked that scene.
I was kind of impressed as well, just that they managed to pull off someone's character motivation, their sole character motivation being, I want pizza, they somehow made that work in a way that wasn't cringy and basically a joke. But it was like, oh, like you say, this is more than just I want pizza, but that's how it's framed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was quite impressed with that actually, where it was like, realistically, I want pizza is a terrible motivation, but it worked. And actually, it did remind me a little bit of like Tallahassee and Zombieland, like with the Twinkies, where he's like, "This is the last Twinkie on Earth. I'm eating it."
Fair.
No, I really liked it, and I think as well, like it made those two more likable, and like their connection of like, you know, it's just he's just this sad, lonely guy who like doesn't want to die alone, and he's just scared, so he's just following her, right? And it just kind of like it makes it a bit more meaningful when he like goes out of his way and he does this stuff by himself, and you're like, oh, there's a little character development for him. You know, he's being a bit more brave, and then you're getting to see this like this fun side of him, but he's still silent, which I thought they told really well.
Yeah, there's definitely like he's incredibly useless at the start. He's just does not know what's going on, and it's I guess do you really spend time with those type of characters all that often, like in a trope, like you're saying about tropes in these films? Do you typically spend a lot of time with those characters? Because I think those characters tend to just get killed off.
Yeah.
In these type of monster movies, but I quite liked being able to see him just like actually, like you say, go through an arc of he's absolutely fucking useless. He doesn't even know why he's following this woman, and she tells him leave, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
And then they have like nice moments together, and like you say, like he ends up actually taking the leap, basically.
Do you know what I also really liked about this is how they didn't turn it into a romance, and how it was a platonic friendship, and I really liked that.
Was there a moment at the end where you were like, they might kiss?
Well, that's the whole thing of like I find that a lot of movies not that they force, but there has to be a romance, right? Like most movies, there's a romance. So I was kind of just expecting them to do it. I was like, oh, okay, you know, she's dying of cancer. You know, I'm sure something's going to happen. It's the only two people, and then they're like, no, they were just buds, and I was like, this is great. I like this. This is nice. I just thought it was good. I wasn't expecting it. It gave me a surprise, which I liked.
Yeah, I was going to say something there. Fuck. Anything to add to that, Brandon? Anything to talk about there?
I'm trying to think. You make a good point with the helicopter scene. That was a really good one. I totally forgot about that. Yeah. Nah, I think that's it for me. Like not that I dislike the film, but it's just like the positives weren't like crazy standoutish. So
yeah,
I don't know what to say about it. Yeah.
I think generally the scenes in the rain were usually my favorite as well. It's like I like this motif throughout the films that like, or this theme that like water is safe. I like that that's kind of like a general trend that like running water, a fountain, the rain, thunder, that it's like got this connotation of like when it's rainy or like when there's water, it's noisy, and noisy is safe. So I kind of like that they always use that as a kind of safety net, like the moments in the rain under the shelter, or the kid hiding under the fountain and stuff like that. Or even at the end, he jumps into the water, you know? Like, these things can't swim either. Like, water is like the last safety net of humanity sort of thing. I quite like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Science.
Yeah, it's like science. And it makes me think as well, because I'm like, because like 70-80% of our, like, the Earth's surface is covered in water. Did like thousands of these bastards just like plummet into the ocean and drown immediately? Like, it makes them a little less scary, but and just I guess personally, I actually really liked the little scene with like the marionette. I thought that was like pretty well filmed, and it was just like a strange little show thing that you didn't expect to see. I'm just a big fan of puppets and marionettes and stuff, so that's just completely my taste. But I don't know. It was a weird thing when it's like, oh, we're going to see a show, and he's like, oh yeah, it's marionette. She's like, I wouldn't have come if you told me. Getting hate. And I think my last kind of point on positive here is like, I like that they've now taken that leap a little bit where you can kind of just jump into anyone's story in this disaster. Where obviously I didn't realize that Jimon Honzu character was like from a different movie, but I thought this was like a completely fresh. Like there is almost zero through line throughout the whole thing, but I like that you can just market the disaster of The Quiet Place and just follow anyone from that world now. And I kind of hope they do that going forward. Like I hope they get more unique with it, because this one, even though I haven't seen the second one, didn't feel too much different for like from the first one either. I don't feel like they did too much unique stuff with it, but I like that you can do that with a franchise at least. That you're not committed to Amelia Blunt and that family.
Yeah. Well, they've got a video game coming out soon, and apparently your main character has asthma, so you're going to be like wheezing for the game. So it's just, I'm like, that's brilliant. I can relate to that. Jesus.
And yeah, I think actually you brought up earlier, Brampton, the bit with the fighter jets taking down the bridges, that was a really great scene as well. Just like seeing these people like accept that basically their government has just abandoned them for the greater good, and they're like, "Fuck, we're actually stuck here now. There's no way off."
But it's like it is the right decision. Like,
yes.
You know, like totally.
Well, yeah, because the people on the other side of the bridge are probably applauding. You know what I mean? But they're like,
yeah.
You can see it in their eyes. They're like, "Oh, we are."
Yeah.
But, sure. Yeah, I really like that. And I actually liked. I don't know if it's implied in the film, but there's like fighter jets going over before the attack even takes place, like before they even arrive. So like, I think it's implied that the government are aware that these things are coming before the public are, because like
but even like her carer was like trying to get out, so it's like clearly some people were informed. You know,
right?
Because he was like, "No, I want pizza," and he's like, "No, we need to go."
Well, yeah. But, I mean, like even like earlier than that in the film, when they're still at the home, there's like a fighter jet goes over the city, and like there's helicopters and stuff when she's on the bridge. Like there's already like forewarning for the government. It just seems like they haven't done anything about it. Possibly because they know they're going to take the bridges down. They don't want people on them when they take them down. So maybe they just haven't told New York. But
maybe
I like that kind of like. I like that they didn't explain that anyway. That it was just like an implication that there's more going on.
Yeah.
But that's probably on my list of positives. Like exhausted. So if you guys want to go into some negatives, or I'll start off.
Could we go into mixed? I've got a mixed list. I don't know if you guys do.
Okay.
Or I'll start. Okay, so see the nurse. The care.
His name was apparently Ruben. I recognize him from something. His name's Alex.
He's in Hereditary.
Hereditary. Yeah.
And
Jumanji.
Yeah.
It's Jumanji. That's what I recognize him from. It's Jumanji. Yeah.
He's a brilliant actor. I love him.
And he goes out like a fucking dweeb.
Well, this is my point, right? So I think killing him off was a really good decision. I just hated the way they killed him and when they killed him, because I personally think they should have killed him. You know, like when the crowd comes out and everyone's like, it's slowly becoming more noisy and more noisy just before you meet Joseph Quinn's character.
That's a good scene, actually.
I think he should have died there, like protecting her, and then that's when they should have introduced Joseph Quinn as like the next character.
I wanted more time with him. I don't know if I go that far, because then you're getting rid of one sidekick and then immediately kind of getting another male sidekick, I guess.
Which I would
a replacement rather than, I don't know.
And that's completely fair.
I did want more from him as well, though.
Yeah, I wanted like way more from him, because he's like, first, he's a great actor. Everything he's in, like, I want more from him. And like, I really liked his character. He was like really sweet.
Yeah.
And it's like it would have just been I think a better death if he had actually died in more of a sweet way, like his character is. Like protecting.
I think as well, there's something to be said for just like an unceremonious death, where it's like, oh, anyone can die. You've set the stakes. This guy was like he was our little Act 1 like friend, and now he's gone.
Yeah,
that's fine. But I don't think it was done particularly well.
Yeah,
and I will say, sorry, you finish your point.
No, and that's why I'm mixed on it, because I'm like, it was. I like that they killed him, but I don't like how they killed him.
I will say, that's one of my examples of them using New York to its advantage, I think, where these are old buildings. When the power goes out, they have backup generators. That's a good way to utilize the city setting over what we've had before, where it's
Yeah.
like, if this is day one and the power goes out, yeah, the backup generators are going to go up, and they're powered by diesel. They're fucking noisy. So that's a problem you're going to have to deal with as a character. I liked that was like part of it, and I thought it was really interesting, like a really good natural way of building building a scenario where these monsters are going to come get you. My only problem is with scenes like that, where it's like, this generator's fucking loud. Like, this is really, really loud, and he gets it off, and then the monster's obviously like around because of the noise, and then he rips his shirt, and I'm like, I mean, you didn't need to have him rip his shirt. Like, you could have just had him fix it, and then it would have killed him anyway. Because I don't know, that felt a bit strange. But also, this is probably a bigger negative for the film in general, rather than just this scene. But whenever someone seems to make a noise, only one of these fucking monsters seems to turn up.
Yeah.
Like, this is a city, and that's part of the reason I'm like, I think they could juice it more and be like, right, a bit like Alien and Aliens, where, you know, there's only a few of these monsters in the first Quiet Place. This is a city. This is like I say, like the aliens to Alien. How does that change the dynamic of how you deal with these things? Because it's not just, oh, you might be able to shoot one and kill it. It's like, you are done. Like, dunzo. There are hundreds of these things. And if you make that generator noise, I would have liked it more of a swarm than just like a couple. Or maybe even just one, I think it was. But yeah, I thought it was weird throughout the whole film. Like, there's just noises and then one and one and one. And I'm like, but this is New York City. We saw loads of them. Like,
yeah,
a bit strange.
I think the only time they do that I can remember is when they go into that like glass building, and then you see them like,
yes.
You're like, oh, there's one, there's two, there's 10, and that's I liked that scene, but I think that's the only time you really get to see multiple, except from the crowd scene, I guess. But like when it's just like one or two characters, that's like the only time you actually see so many of them chase one or two characters.
I think just to further that, but this might sound like it's a counterpoint to that one, but or it might sound like it doesn't gel well with that, but I'll try and explain it. I think the film shows the monsters way too much in general, and that's probably my biggest gripe with it, is that...
That's my next point, actually.
The scene with them running over the building, why that's such a positive is it's an image in my head. It's not an image on screen. That's what it creates with the noise, with the helicopter.
Yeah.
When you put it on screen, basically, I think I'm not the biggest horror person, and it's the general rule, but if I can see it, I'm not scared of it. And we already know what these look like, so there's no point in doing like a reveal. It's not like you're revealing this monster the first time, because everyone's familiar basically with what they look like. And they're not a particularly interesting design, they just kind of look like Demogorgons. So,
yeah.
Even down to the face opening up and stuff like that. And I think a big problem with this film is most of it's set during the day.
Yeah.
And I know it might be a trope to set things at night, but there's a reason for that. Obscuring these things as much as possible is the way to go, for me, anyway. Because they lose a lot when they do big wide shots, big sweeping like aerial shots from a helicopter, and you see these things scaling buildings in broad daylight. They don't look particularly good, and it just loses that like fear factor for me, because it's more like I don't know. It just loses something about its intrigue. Whereas things like that scene where Joseph Quinn kind of goes into the nest and they're all just kind of creeping about, that's much more like unsettling. And in like even underground when they're in the sewer pipe and like the underground, and it's just hanging for the ceiling, it's like that's a lot more creepy than anything you can show me about how fast they can run. You know,
like you mentioned that scene earlier. You know, when all you hear is the rumbling and you know like the theater dust and all that happening. Like that's way creepier and scarier as well
100%.
than like any of the other scenes, because you are seeing it way too much.
And I think that leads to a kind of lack of tension throughout this whole film for me anyway.
Yeah.
Especially because I saw this isn't a spoiler, but I saw this the day after I saw Longlegs, and Longlegs had a few scenes that were much, much better for building tension than this was. And part of that I think has to do with the sound design and the score, because that's where Longlegs comes into like very positive. But I think just in general, the tone of this film just felt a bit lackluster in general, even though the character stuff for me is the highlight. So like the horror elements don't really come together into like a good tone, like a horror tone for me throughout the whole film, basically.
I I completely agree because that's like most of my negative points, or like one, is how there's only like 2 scenes where I was like, "Oh, that's scary," and then the rest is just like, "Oh, okay." Or I put my pants because the music gets really loud, and it like randomly pops out of nowhere, and it's just a cheap jump scare. And I'm like, "Well, that wasn't scary. You just like scared me with loud music." You know what I mean? Like I'm not.
And I know this is an issue you have with the film, Brendan, so I'll set you up for this. But the very first scene where they crash, I thought was pretty poorly done. I don't think that I thought like the way the meteors come in could have been done a lot cooler. Like they just kind of arrive and then things blow up. There wasn't any kind of like unique look at like, oh, these things coming in, or like any sort of distress from people like, oh, look in the sky, what the hell is that? And it was just like it just happened. Like even Transformers did this better. Like to be honest, the meteor scene. But like the worst thing is like what happens next. If she gets knocked out and she wakes up and everyone's already aware that these things
Don't
are
make a sound.
connected to sound. So take us away on that point, Brandon, because I know you don't like that very much either.
Yeah, well, like the whole like I don't want to say promotion because honestly I didn't watch too many trailers going in, but like the whole idea I would have thought was how do you adapt to surviving against these things? Like how do they learn that oh you don't make a noise? Because obviously it's like it's common knowledge if there's a monster there you don't make a noise, right? That's just like you do that anyway. But there's literally scenes where she sees it for the first time and she has to be quiet. You know, the guy Henry Jimon hasn't showed up yet. Like in that scene where she's trying to save her cat, he shows up later. But it's like, how does she know just to like stay silent and be still? You know, saving her cat. So it's just like I want you to learn. I want you to see these people learn how to adapt to these things rather than just oh I woke up and now people are telling me how to deal with it. It's like well that was like the whole premise though. You know?
Can I just be devil's advocate?
Yes.
So would you not go right? I'm seeing and hearing people getting like ripped to shreds, and like there's a big monster like nearby. Would you not like be quiet anyway?
No,
So
that's what I'm
like
saying. That's what I'm saying. In monster films in general, you're going to be quiet, but
yeah,
when you're face to face with them, you like you freaking run or scream or something. You don't just freaking stay there and be still like
Well,
but would
in
you
freaking
not?
Jurassic Park.
I think
But would
even
you
You
not
know,
like have
I
seen
think
other people? Because like there's scenes where you see other people screaming and
that's
crying,
fine,
and
but
they.
she's been knocked out
but
for all that though.
that's what I mean. Like it's we
Oh
would
right,
missed
okay,
it.
okay, my bad.
You know, we
Sorry.
didn't see people learn that. That's the whole issue.
Yeah.
Like I'm fine with people. That's what I'm saying. Like I want Lupita Nyong'o, Samira, apparently her name is in the film.
Yeah.
Um, to learn this stuff. Not doesn't need to be on her own. I would have preferred if it was
Yeah.
on her own, but instead of just being told what to do because it's just like freaking boring that way.
Well,
You know.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the scene I had in my head going into this of how they were going to do it, and it's not particularly like unique, it's just a scene that illustrates that point, is that she somehow ends up in some building and one of these creatures is in the building and like it can't see like you know what I mean, like there's people rushing around or whatever and it kills all them, but then there's a few stragglers in the building and she's one of them and they're hiding or whatever because they think it can see. And then it turns a corner and looks straight at her and she realizes it can't see her. And then someone off camera makes a noise and it goes after them. And she's like, oh, that thing didn't see me. Right, it's audible. And then it's like, right, how do I communicate that to people around me to try and save them? That's the scene that was like, obviously that's a one and done. Maybe it would have been better to have a bit more gradual. But realistically, for me, as a prequel to A Quiet Place, the thing that was interesting me the most was how do people work out they need to be quiet? And the big problem with the film is that she wakes up and a helicopter goes over immediately and says, everyone, shut up and get inside. Don't make a noise. They're attracted to noise. And it's like, right, so all the intrigue about how these people work out this problem is gone. So
Yeah, and that kind of goes into a different point because that would have made this film different than the other ones. Because what I said before, privately to you guys, is like the first film was so good in the premise and the characters. I mean, not just because the acting was good and stuff, but like the concept was so sick. Like, okay, there's the concept is there's these monsters who can't see but they can hear, and their hearing is very sensitive, so you need to be extremely quiet. However, our two main characters is a deaf girl and a pregnant woman. It's like, well, shoot, you know, like that's a predicament. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
let's get into this. The second film, it's not as high stakes because she's not pregnant anymore, and the girl's kind of mastered her ability to freaking use her hearing aid as a weapon. So it's like I still like the second film, but it's like I like it slightly less. But this film, it's just like, well, where's the stakes then? Like compared to the last films, they're just like normal guys. You know, obviously she's got cancer, but that's not affecting her noise
Yeah.
level or anything like that. You know, except the freaking stupid cat. I know you guys like. I'm not a cat fan, but like Jesus Christ, I would not risk my life. I would not risk my life that many times for a stupid cat. Jesus Christ. Especially at the start, she's like running after it. Like, what you do?
When you have,
I think they actually, I don't know if is this a positive or a negative, because I can't make my mind up really. Is that I thought their cat being there was basically, it was just a certainty that the cat was going to fuck up at one point and was going to cause them trouble. But the cat never really seems to get them in trouble. It's just there.
Yeah.
So it got in trouble at the start because it brushed past the bell, and that's when the monster showed up.
Yeah. I mean, like I had a scene in my head of like, oh, the monster's in the room with them already, and then it goes or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it makes noise. I'm really surprised they only used that once, considering it was there.
That's another thing, right? Not to be like that guy was like in reality, but like in reality, the cat's gonna freaking scream at that freaking monster if it came across her. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna stay quiet. You know?
Well,
I'd be like having a baby, and it's like, oh, don't make a sound, baby. It's like, of course, gonna make a sound.
And on the
like,
cat,
100%.
You're a bit cat racist, I think, Brandon.
To be fair, blame Argyle because that started it. so I've had enough of cats in movies this year.
Blame what?
Argyle.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, one thing the cat in this, I don't think they CGI'd it. I think they only did it once. They CGI'd the cat that I could have seen.
Definitely, most of the time it was like an actual cat. I was gonna say practical. It was an actual cat.
Which
the only positive I can see with the cat is I do like the idea of it being like, oh, it's her comfort animal, whatever it's called. Yeah. So it's like I get why she would value it so much. But,
no, I get it. Yeah, I get it. And I think I am praising it because I think like it's low-hanging fruit to make the cat fuck up like multiple times throughout the film. I think, and I'm kind of glad they didn't rely on that to create noise. Unfortunately, that's one of my other negatives is they kind of just do that rinse and repeat formula of like everything's silent, everyone's like being careful. Someone accidentally makes a noise. There's a chase scene. Maybe someone dies. And then we're back to silence. And it just kind of rinse and repeats that premise like multiple times throughout the film. And definitely, like, I can't even remember exactly where, but probably around halfway to 3/4 of the way through the film, I was a bit like, right, we've done this a few times now. And obviously there's different scenarios. They do it in the crowd. They do it in the big glass building and stuff like that. But she like knocks over a book. And I'm like, that's not particularly interesting way of attracting these monsters. It just happens. They're not even trying to achieve anything really. It just, like I say, it just happens. So I'm a bit like, it just.
I don't hate. Right. I don't hate the idea of making accidental noise, right? Because, but again, it depends how they set up. They didn't set up very well at all. But like in the first film or two, they're like really careful about everything. Like even in their little base, they've got like cushioned like doors and stuff like that, so they don't like make any noise. So it's like that's because they prepared for like a year or two to do that. Whereas like right now, they're still like just getting used to not making noise. You know what I mean? But like again, I wish they played on that a bit more, not just like, oh shit, I dropped my book or whatever. You know, just like play into that a bit more, like show that they're not like, they've not like. Sorry, I'm like freaking knackered after that accolade freaking recorded. They're not organized at this point. You know what I mean? Like it's not like a initial thing they go through.
Do you think a scene like they're testing how much noise they can make just to get a gauge of it? Do you think a scene like that would have been good? And then they fuck up and they go too loud. That's maybe like a natural way of like bringing in like recycling the formula. Where it's like the characters are trying to problem solve. They're like, say we've got this problem in front of us, we need to jump from here to here, but we think it's going to make too much noise. If we jump on the spot, are they going to come? You know, something like that. And it's like maybe they're trying to solve. That's not a great example, but something along those lines where it's like they're trying to solve a problem and they go too far, and that attracts. But rather than just being like, oh no, I dropped my book, like because that's fine once, but then it happens quite a few times. Like things like that happen. Like you say, the cat on the bell, and like Joseph Quinn having his little panic attack in the sewer. It's like, I guess that one's slightly different, but
I liked every time he had a panic attack because
no, I
I'm
like
like,
that too. Yeah, that's probably a bad example.
because I know for a fact if I was in his position, I'd have put myself and had a panic attack. Like I would have been dead immediately. You know what I mean? It's like I like that bit.
I guess just a general lack of problem solving throughout the film. Like the only time I really see, because these things are attracted to noise, but no one really, people mask their noises, but no one really like distracts in this film, the monsters. Apart from like one time when Joseph Quinn, he like fires a rock through a car door and and the alarm goes off. But apart from that, there's not really any other instance of like, right, we need to get from A to B, they're in between, let's distract them away, or something like that. It's a very like blink and you'll miss it time, which I like because you don't need to like build up to something like that. But just like more examples of like that, it just seemed like people were kind of coasting. Didn't really seem like they were trying to work out things, which was more the intrigue from this film for me.
Yeah. I guess I've got one last big complaint, and that's just like the inconsistency with the monsters itself, right? Because my favorite scene in the first one is literally, I think it's the first scene where the kid has the toy and it freaking goes off and then alerts the thing and then he gets swiped up and dies, right? On the bridge. The good thing about that is just how quick it was, right? So it's like right away, as soon as the noise is made, snatch, you're done. You don't get to run, you're dead, right? There's so many times in this film where they're running away from them, and I'm like, bro, every other instance, you make a quick little noise. Even in this film, when he ripped his little shirt, the guy freaking died instantly right after that. The guy swooped him up. There was no chance to run. Even if he did run, you're not freaking running away. You know what I mean? So, and then right at the end of the film, you see Joseph Quinn running away from freaking 20 of them. And I'm like, bro, I don't care how far away you are, because from what we've seen before, you just get snatched. You know what I mean? And so this kind of takes away from me now, where it's like, oh, so you have a chance to run away, I suppose.
That's a good
You
point.
know?
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
I do like how Samira, I'm gonna try to use her characters' names. She was like breaking windows and stuff, so she was trying to alert them back and stuff. But like as soon as they like caught wind of, oh, he's running away, like they should be able to catch him.
I thought during
know?
that scene she was just going to shout. I thought she was just going to start shouting and then just like basically get them on her. But
Oh yeah,
never
you'd
did
think, yeah.
that.
But yeah, that's like my main complaint, because like it's kind of the same with the oversaturation with the monsters. But it's like the more you show them and the more you use them, the you're gonna find inconsistencies with them, and that's just a big one for me. Where it's just like, well, even in the film, like so many times they are making noise. It's just like not particularly loud noise, but it's like we've in the other films they're being like so quiet, and even the tiniest little thing triggers it. You know, so and now like they're even like whispering, like not even in the rain bits, just like they're just whispering to each other and stuff. I'm like, what? I don't care if you're indoors or anything like that. Like you should be silent. That's the point of the thing.
You know a way they could integrate that better, I think, and it would actually come back to the point I was saying about putting it in a city. Is that never once in this film did you hear anyone else off screen getting attacked from their point of view? Where there's hundreds of people in their scenario, probably thousands based on the people we've seen, doing what they're doing, but you don't hear anyone in the distance like screaming, or you don't hear like a noise in the distance and then a big rush, which is probably the advantage I was hoping for in a city, where it's like everything just like the whole city seems to be quiet apart from these two bastards, like you know. But yeah, I think that would maybe be taking advantage of the setting better, where it's like you're in a setting now where people are around, but you're not getting the only scene you're getting is when the characters are there, of like showcasing that with like the walking scene. But before that and after that, it doesn't seem to be any other people on the island apart from them, really. Yeah, that's a strange one.
So that's kind of my last point, because that was the big one for me. I'm just like, you've beansed it for the monster.
No, that's totally fair. I didn't think about that till you said that. Let's
I have
see.
a few final points. You can go ahead,
one
Robert.
last point.
When you go.
My last point is her death. I absolutely hate her death.
Hey, Robert, we didn't see her die.
Elaborate.
Okay. Okay. Would you? Okay, you have 3 options. 4 options, right? Yeah, 4 options. Option 1: you just have a slow, painful death and you die of cancer. No one wants that. Fair enough. Option 2: you just put a bullet in your head. Quick, easy going. Option 3: you have a nice scene where she's clearly dead and the music is playing in her ears, and it's like, oh, okay, she's passed away. At least she had a good death. And then maybe there's like a box of pizza next to her. Haha, funny, sad, blah blah blah. Or she walks in the street and then opens the music, and in my mind is getting ripped to shreds. No, thank you. No, you would never pick that option. That is a brutal way to be like killed. Like, why would you pick to go that way? Like, you have so many other ways to go.
They should have just killed her on the dock, honestly, when she was distracting.
I have like, I guess this is a fan fiction now, I guess, but I have like a way in my head that I would have rather it played out, and you guys, I guess, can tell me that it's bullshit. But I think she should have died playing the piano instead of playing the music. I think the film should have went silent when they were sharing pizza and he was doing his little thing and like cheering her up and stuff. That point, the film, all the music should have cut out of the film, and you should have just seen them having a good time together. He brings the pizza over, they share a slice. It kind of fades down. We see him leave. She gives him the cat, and we see her put her hand on the piano, and then he walks away, and then we just see them fucking bounce on this club. We don't even hear the piano, or we maybe hear like one piano key above all the silence. She just plays one key, and then poof, all these monsters are on her. We don't even see her dead.
She uses the piano to distract them for him to get away. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
I would have liked that way more, but I still don't like the idea of like in maybe this is just me, but in my head, if I'm dying of cancer, and I know I'm going to die, but like I don't want to be ripped to shreds. Like, that just sounds like.
Yes, I think it was, for me, it was more of an inevitability where it's like I could live out, like you say, into a slow burn, but it's like, why should I live the rest of my life being quiet and not having it my way when I've done that before? You know what I mean? Like, I've lived my life the way I want to live it now. I've come to the end of it. I've finished my journey. There's nothing left for me here.
And that's totally fair. Like, I totally understand that point. I just think for me, like, there's so many other ways to like.
I don't know how else.
Yeah, I think I'm on Robert's side, where it's just like, that's not the way to go. The only way that works is if you're sacrificing yourself, like she was pretty much doing. But then it is just like a similar thing to what John Krasinski did in the first film, right? Where it's just like,
I mean, how else?
Repeat that.
I mean, if she's done with her life, how else are you going to go out in a nicer way?
Well, like you don't even have to show it. Us watching her, you're clearly like, she's not going to last more than like a couple days, right? Like, she is a walking zombie for that last act. So it's that thing where it's like, it could have literally just been Joseph Quinn gets on the boat and then it cuts to her in the bar and she's clearly dead, but she's listening to music. Like, you don't have to show her dying. You don't have to show.
No. But I'm talking about her choice as a character. How does she choose to die? Not how do we see her die?
Right. I don't know. I just because her character isn't like.
I think it's a powerful thing that she got to choose when she died. That's part of her. That's part of her journey. Is that she wanted to go do this thing, managed to do it, and save a guy in the process. Trusted her cat to a guy that she just met. Saved that kind of last bit of humanity that she could, had her way with the world, and then chose to leave it.
I think if that's the case, again, as what Brandon and was saying, she should have, and it should have been a sacrifice scene then. Like, it should have been like a.
I know what you mean, but I think the sacrifice almost takes away from it being her choice, because the sacrifice kind of implies that she has a moral like she has a moral point to kill herself for this guy. But I think it's almost stronger for her character if she just chooses to willingly leave the world. It's not so much that she's doing it explicitly to save someone else. It's just her choice as a character. This is
It's
it.
tough
This is
because
it.
I see both your points, but I am like, it's a rough way to go though. Like you're getting
Yeah.
demolished. You know what I mean? It's not like
Because,
it's not like you're just shooting yourself or
I
something.
don't know.
It's like
I don't know. Well, it basically is like shooting yourself, I guess, because she hasn't seen anyone survive, even beyond the first attack.
But like you have to think of like imagine like you're gonna feel it. Like you're you're
But
gonna
I don't know.
feel
I don't know
that,
if you know
like-
that though, because like you say, this always happens very quickly. Like every character she's seen get taken out, there was never a scream or anything. They were just gone.
No, there was.
Was there?
There was because during that whole scene of like when they're in the city and all those people are getting like devoured, you're just hearing like grunts and screams, and
I
you're
don't think
seeing
those are the people dying though. No, I think they're the people on the street watching them die. No?
I don't. Well, I think it's both. I genuinely think it's both. But there's like, I don't know. Personally, I hate that scene. I really didn't like that scene because and maybe that's just a mental part of me where like I
fine.
mentally can't
We
get
can
myself.
disagree.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I can't get myself to that.
I do think as well an alternate version of the film that I quite like is just getting them pizza at the bar and then it just fades to black. Just behind them, the camera's behind them. They're both eating pizza. She's done her thing, and it's like we don't get to know what happens. I'm perfectly fine with like an ambiguous ending. I think that would have been perfectly fine as well.
I would have been happy with that as well.
Because ideally, her character motivation was to get pizza, so that's the story over.
I did like the fact that they went to the pizza store and then there was no pizza because it was like burnt up. I was like, oh,
yeah,
that's sad. I like that. I wasn't expecting
it was
that.
almost really
What I
obvious.
find
as
so
well.
funny though is that every building around it looks fine. It's only that building that's like black.
Yeah.
It's like God's sake, unlucky mate. Honestly,
I have a couple final points, but I think that's everything pretty much.
Okay.
If I was in the church when those two were speaking at night, I'd have fucking killed them both because they were being really loud, whispering. I was like, bruh, there's so many people in here. It's like the cinema. You don't talk when there's other people there. Like,
I just wouldn't chance it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just like you're literally kids in here, bro.
I guess it's one of those things. Sorry, one minute. I guess it's one of those things where it's like, I think the film should have done it in a better way where you're in a city, right? So there's, like we said, there should have been more noise. There should have been more things happening constantly, right? I think it would have been interesting if like you see a character make a noise or you hear them talk, but nothing happens to them because there's a much noise, like more noise going on over there. So if you heard, in that chapel scene, like loud noise in the background, and then that gave like a little bit of chance for people talking. Like I think that would have been, as you guys said earlier, would have fixed that scene.
The other thing is in the city as well is if there's more opportunity for noise, there's maybe more opportunity for these things to get confused as well. If there's multiple noises going on at once, these things might get overwhelmed. Be like, where the fuck do I go? Because they seem pretty like primitive beings. They're not like, it doesn't seem like they're capable of higher thought. They just kind of react to noises. So if there's things happening all over the city, maybe they're like, fuck, which one do I go to? There was never really a scene like that either. Like
that reminds me of an actual scene. See when they're over that pothole and there's fire coming out of it. That's flipping loud. Like that was a really loud scene, and they were like sitting next to the fire talking. But like there wasn't them. They weren't anywhere nearby. But you think they would be reacting to the sound. So like they could have showed that, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Better as well.
And my last one's a nitpick. I hate to go in a nitpick, but Joseph Quinn,
it has to happen.
His introduction, he was really loud getting out of that water, and I'm like, bro, no one turned up.
But that's what I mean. That's what I mean by my big complaint is like in the first film, they're so quiet for everything, So it's like when you're seeing people make even a little bit of noise, it's like, what are you doing? Like I know that it's like, oh, it's day one, but it's like we've established like people are kind of they get.
But they're not paying the consequences for it either.
And they're not paying the consequences, yeah.
But I guess that goes on to say there was so much noise going around them, right? And so the monsters were like just going at everything.
It's implied. That's implied, but we never hear that. It's never the film doesn't make that obvious to us. You don't hear people in the distance or anything. It's a shame.
Yeah.
But generally, honestly, I haven't seen the second one, so maybe I haven't hit the wall of like we've been through this before. But I was pretty positive on this one. Even though criticisms and stuff, I actually quite liked most of this film. I'll probably give it like a 7.
Yeah, I'm like I've seen all three, and it's definitely the weakest of them. But I still really enjoyed it as well. 7 for me.
Very good. Any final thoughts, Brandon? That you?
I'm at a 6 because I've seen too many films where it's just like, oh, just rehash the same thing, and I'm like, I'm done with it.
So
I'd rather.
Can you say that again? You cut out for me.
Like I've just seen too many films, especially horror films, like Terminator, Aliens, or freaking just those type of films where it's just like, oh, it's the same concept, just different characters, and it's just like, you need to give me something to bite onto. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
give me something, and there just wasn't enough of that in this one. If anything, it was just like less stakes. So it's just like whatever. But it's like I said, the acting was really good. There's like literally no fault to Lupita Nyong'o or Joseph Quinn. They're both fantastic. Especially because when you're not talking. But it's like, yeah, but at the same time, it's like I just prefer the other characters from the other films. Not to say I would prefer another film with them, because I think Ryan's right. You could make other films with different people in the same scenario and see how they adjust to it and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty happy, like not going back to Emily Blunt and stuff. But yeah,
I think the next one should be in India.
Yeah, like what if you're in freaking Africa? Like, what do you do now? You know what I mean? Like, you're screwed. Like, there's no place like there, bro. Like, imagine you're just in the freaking wild. It's just like some like.
What part of Africa are you talking about?
No, but like, it's a very open area. It's not like a big city like Kenya, for example. You know what I mean? It's like you're pretty in the wild for the most part.
Am I being dumb? Is Kenya not a country?
Yeah. No, it's a country, but I'm saying
right,
like it's not like a built city like New York.
Right. Got you. Yeah, I've never.
Whereas the first film's like a farmstead.
Yeah.
Thing, with corn.
I actually do have a final point. I'm not just trying to get the final word. I'm not that petty, but I do have one final point. Is there are some pretty cheap jump scares in this as well.
Yes.
And jump scares maybe have their time and place. I'm not a fan of them, but. The worst one is she's lying on the couch looking out the window, and it's going to flash back to before day one, and it's all sunny and nice, and then it jumps out at her like a fucking Freddy Fazbear, and I'm like, bruh, come on, that's really lame. Don't do that again. And thankfully it doesn't. But that was really lame. Yeah.
That's what I said earlier. Like, the jump scares in this were dreadful. Like, it was just I put my pants over the sound. And just the random things popping out. Like, it wasn't a scary film at all.
No. No, I actually think it does better as a character piece than it does as a horror film.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure.
But yep, that's our... So was that 7.76? There you go.
Yeah.
6.6.
That's a decent average.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. Have you got anything else to talk about this week, Robert? Or...
I do not, no.
No?
Unless you want to hear my hot take on Shameless. Other than that, I have nothing.
I have no idea what Shameless even is.
It's a British TV show, also adapted into an American TV show. It's very good, very hard to watch.
Give us the TLDR then. What's your problem?
So many unnecessary nudity scenes. It is like wild.
There's no such thing.
No, it's just like it literally is like pans to woman walking out of door and she's like topless and then just puts a top on, and then it pans to something completely
what is
different.
What is this on?
Netflix.
All right, 11 seasons. I'm gonna renew Netflix then.
11 seasons.
Oh, I'm gonna renew
of Netflix. Just full on nudity. Yeah, but
right.
It's really good. It's really good. It's just so unnecessary. But
okay, fair enough. Well, you haven't seen Longlegs, though, have you, Robert?
No, I haven't, and I haven't seen the other film you're going to talk about. So,
yes,
shall I call this?
You may leave. You're dismissed. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us, Robert.
Well, thank you for having me as always. But I shall love yous and leave yous.
Very good.
Amen.
Right.
Till next time.
Catch you next episode.
Get
watching more films,
boys. I will.
Right, everyone say goodbye to Robert. Right.
Bye.
So, bye. The next film we will be talking about, just me and Brandon, is Longlegs. So, I guess I'll do a little intro for this. I guess maybe not a horror film, elements of horror, but more of a thriller, like a serial killer thriller with supernatural elements. Spoilers. I'm pretty positive on this film. I have some pretty big issues, especially third act, and I know you feel the same. But um, I am, yeah, I enjoyed this more than Quiet Place, I would say.
100%. Yeah,
Felt
easily.
really, really, really well made. Really interesting shots and edits. Some nice like homages to the, like I thought it looked like Evil Dead at points, like when it was following the car. Behind there was a lot of like weird, yeah, just like weird unorthodox things, and I was really really with it. And even just like sound design and like the way the score was used. I don't know if this is typical in horror. I don't typically watch horror films that often, but I really like the use of both of those in this film. Really, really well made. Looks like a really, really good film. I don't know what the budget is. I don't know if you have it up, but
Okay.
really well made. For I can imagine the budget's very big, but it looked very, very good. The film. You want to take it away, Brendan?
It's about 10 million.
10 million. Yeah, this looked great for 10 million.
Yeah.
um,
But it's like most horror films are cheap. You know what I mean? So it's not
yeah,
like it's a.
but
It's a.
most horror
Yeah.
films like look this good though.
I think it's just because it was shot really well, whereas other horror films use CG and stuff for their monsters and stuff, obviously.
That's true.
You
Yeah.
know, and all that jazz. Whereas this was just like a human thing. Sorry, what were you asking me before
I was
that?
saying, you want to take away some positives for the film?
Sure. Well, going in, I was freaking hyped. I can't lie, because the trailers were sick. The hype around it was crazy. Um, this was the busiest screen I've been to this year for a film, which is mad for a horror film. It's usually like, at least over in Britain, it's different over in America, I imagine, but like it's pretty sparse for horror films usually, unless it's like a big franchise like It or something like that. Even the first Quiet Place was massive actually, but yeah, so the screen was packed, so the hype was real. Obviously had like your little like snippets of Nick Cage. It's like he was kind of like the big marketing behind. It's like, oh my god, Nick Cage's best performance or whatever it was. Um, so yeah, I was freaking in for it. I was also kind of terrified because people were saying it's the scariest film they've ever seen or something. I don't agree with that. I'm not gonna go that far. Um, but yeah, I mean, to start with the positives, like Jesus Christ, like the acting, besides one person, which we'll get to, in my opinion, anyway, was freaking stellar throughout, especially the main lassie. I'm just going to get her up because I do want to show her out. She was really good.
Lee Harker in the film, right?
Lee Harker. Just trying to
Thank
get
you,
her.
Lee Harker.
But she was in It Follows, which is a film I don't like. It's a good concept, but it's like A Quiet Place, what we just talked about. It just completely freaking doesn't do nearly enough with the concept. Um, Manika Monroe, I think her name is. That's what it says here. Yeah, she was really good, and so is so is everyone around her pretty much.
And a strange protagonist as well.
Yeah, which I kind of like. But in a lot of
Yeah.
horror films, I know you're not a big horror film guy, but it's not like not normal. Like usually there's something weird with them, but like yeah, she was an interesting character.
She's very
She
like
wasn't just
stoic,
like
right? She didn't
yeah,
really show
because I
emotion.
was kind of because I didn't know this going in, but I thought she was going to be like what's her face from Silent of the Lambs, just like this like young cop that's like ready to solve this case. It's like let's freaking prove everyone wrong kind of thing. Whereas like she's not really like that. She's kind of just freaking like she's just a bit weird, Dave. I kind of like it. But
You're gonna have to clarify like.
I like it in the sense of just like how it is like portrayed,
No,
because it's not like she was just weird, but she could talk fine to people and all that stuff. She was just a bit like I don't even know what I would call it. I don't want like a sign or a diagnosis, but like she just set up. I mean, knowing her history of her mum and stuff, I imagine she grew up with it in a weird um, family dynamic. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, to start with that, yeah, and the tone throughout the film is
Pretty
really
immaculate,
brilliant.
yeah.
Like it just felt like she was always being watched, kind of thing. And you can do that with like good camera angles, just like watching her.
Yeah, I don't know.
On from another room and stuff like that.
Yes, especially, and this is just the background. We are planning on filming a little short film, a little thriller ourselves. And a lot of the shots in this are things that I've been thinking about going into this as well, about how you would line up a shot. And like when you recognize those things are happening, it really does put you on edge. Because like, for example, she's in her little cabin, her little wooden cabin, and it's very exposed. And she's like at her desk. And the camera's framed in a way where she's looking kind of, because typically if you have a shot, you kind of want your actor to be kind of looking into the center of the screen, sort of thing. Like whichever direction they're facing, you kind of want to be on the opposite side of the screen. So if they're looking stage left, you want to put them on kind of stage right, kind of generally.
Yeah.
But in a lot of these shots, they're putting her like very close to the camera. They're having her look away from the center of the screen, and they're having like the background kind of in your face almost, where you're looking behind her a lot. So it gives this kind of like weird feeling of like she's not really aware of her surroundings, like in the frame, because you can see more than she can. And they do that a lot, and it's really effective in that scene with the camera. Because I just kept finding myself looking at the background. I was like, is there a person there? Is there someone in the shadows? Like, oh, and and there isn't, but like it makes you feel like there is, and really, really good at building tension. And I think my highlight for that especially is the very first scene with her and her other agent kind of partner.
Yeah.
And I had I like that scene because one, it confirms she's kind of psychic, and I'm like, that's kind of an odd thing to do at the very start of your film.
But I'm glad they just got it out of the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not
And
faff about it.
people,
The setup as well.
yeah, people almost react in a normal way, which is quite refreshing. It's not like people ignore it. People are like, that was weird that happened. Like,
Yeah.
we need to look into this a little bit. I don't think they went far enough with that, but that's for later.
Well, I think they did enough with the whole like guess a number between 1 and
Yes.
1,000 or whatever it was, and she got in like 4 turns. It's like, all right, okay, you've got
Yeah,
something
yeah.
here. But it's not. I didn't see it as like a superpower. It's just like she's just got a hunch. She's
Is
got
there
a good
something?
hunch,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Which is fine. I don't mind that. But yeah, to your point, yeah, that scene, fantastic. Like, because I was worried it was going to be a very slow burning film. That just compared to me, it's like, nope, we're starting.
Yeah.
Just like,
No, yeah,
just
you
get
nailed
it.
it. Absolutely nailed it on the head. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just got obliterated. Just like,
Well, yeah, and I actually kind of thought it was gonna. It was almost, maybe I didn't think it was gonna happen, but I was like, man, that would be fun if that happened. And then it happened, and I was like, oh, sick. And then, like you say, it just like booms you. I might even be comparable to like the scene we were talking about in Holdovers last week, where the kid breaks his leg, and there's that kind of period before it where you're like, oh, we're just getting to know our characters, we're kind of moseying around, and then he breaks his leg, and you're like, oh, the film starts now. And this was kind of like that, but pushed right up front, where it was like, oh, like you say, slow burn, and then boff, right, we're in it. And no, it was great. And then the scene where she goes into the house, the sound design, and like I think it was more the score, but the score in that scene, incredible. That just put me so on edge so quickly, and it just like maintained it the whole time she was in the house. Really, really good stuff.
yeah.
So yeah, big props to I don't remember who did the score. I'm sorry, but really, really good stuff at the start, and I really like puts you in a good mood for the rest of the film, like of like where it's going to go. So
because you don't know what's going to happen. Like Jesus, like just came out of nowhere. To keep at the start of the film, I actually really like the very first scene in the snow.
yes,
Kind of unique. Also, kind of like the aspect ratio difference as well. Just kind of change
yeah,
it up a little bit. Make it look aged.
that's one of my major positives of this is it puts you in the setting incredibly well in all the time periods.
Yeah.
And obviously probably the most overt one is like you say the very start where the aspect ratio is shorter, and it is filmed differently as well. It's filmed as if it was filmed earlier than like today, at least in those scenes.
Yeah.
But really good, and just like a really strange reveal for Nick Cage as well, where he just kind of like crouches into frame and then it cuts and then the movie starts. And
I'm
like,
glad you don't see his face. You know, like
yeah,
they keep it hidden, which I mean, not to get to my negatives now, but I'll just like hint towards it. I'm not a big fan of Nick Cage in this film, so the less I kind of see of him, the better. But like the
right.
little hints that I did get of him at the start, like really good. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this is creepy. But it's also because I don't know about him. I didn't know it was going to turn into like a Satan cult thing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I thought he was just going to be like this weird guy. But yeah, great start to the film because like literally from that snow scene straight to this like that one of her partner getting killed, 10 out of 10 start to the film. Like,
Yeah.
like I had
Yeah,
no
yeah.
complaints, zero.
Obviously, the pace after that drops a bit, but I mean, it's still the first act. That's to be expected. So it's
I
not.
mean, the thing is like it's a it's almost like a detective mystery movie. You know what I mean? So there's going to
Yeah.
be points like that. You know, like you kind of need to expect that. But it's also
Yeah.
nice, like that scene did. It kind of surprised you. It's like, oh, shot in the face. Like it's little jumps
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like, oh shoot, something
But
happened.
it's a really good way to keep you invested even in the slower moments because you're like, well, I know how good this can be as well. Where you're like, this is
Yeah,
where we're
yeah.
going to get back to. So like, I'm perfectly fine to build up to that point.
Mhm.
Really good stuff. Another, I mean, and I guess further to the point of the time period is it doesn't ever come up with like a screen card and be like, oh, you're in this year right now. I'm really a big fan of stuff like that, where it's like just from context clues, you kind of work out when you are.
Yeah, because they
because-
mentioned her birthday like in the 70s. And it's like, oh, right, okay. Well, she's not like old,
Yes.
so, so she's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
this
then
must be
but
said
there's
like the
things
90s or something.
yeah, and then but even just like things like they walk into a room in the police station and it's Bill Clinton on the back, and you're like, oh, we're in the 1990s. Okay, good. You know, and then you go back to the 70s and it's like, oh, there's a Richard Nixon on the wall. Right, we're in the 70s. Good stuff. It's like simple stuff like that. You don't need title cards or whatever. You can trust your audience to like gather when you are. It's not particularly important to the story either to know exactly when you are, but I just really like that way of like putting you in the world where it's almost like putting you in a game and not giving you like a HUD. You know, you've not got a mini map. It's like that, but for a film, and it's really it's quite refreshing, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's just it. There's no like distractions. You know what I mean? It's just like you're just in it. You're just yeah. You're yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
HUD's like a perfect example of that.
Yeah,
for sure.
The audience they trust the audience to get it, and they trust themselves to do it well, and they did. So I'm for that type of storytelling. I guess I'm different because I actually really like Nick Cage in this film, and I'm hoping we get a decent discussion out of that because
let's get into this then. Yeah,
sure. You saw the film before me, and then you said, "Oh, it's a good film," but I didn't like Nick Cage, and I don't know if I could recommend it. And then I went and saw it anyway, and I actually really liked him. But I'll let you kick it off then.
I just think there were moments that I really did like like I said at the start of the film when he's in the shop like getting his little paints, and sometimes when he's in the car, like when he just like he just acts a bit too mental, and I'm just like it just kind of takes me out a bit. You know, it kind of gives me Riddler vibes from Batman, but he's like a supervillain, so it's like I can give it a pass. Whereas here it's just like you're so like I don't like theatrical. He's just so theatrical, and I'm just like, bro, like I don't get it, you know.
I will say to your credit, I think most people agree with you, at least in the cinema I was in, because most people were laughing at him.
Well, that's what I mean. Like it wasn't scary. It was just like, what are you doing? Because everyone knows it's Nick Cage, and Nick Cage has this like thing about him. You know what I mean? So
right?
we'll find them inherently funny. Just even look at, you know. So when he's like being weird to the camera, it's like it's kind of hard to take him seriously.
And when people were laughing, I don't think they were laughing at him as well. Like I think they were laughing at the film. They weren't laughing because it was supposed to be fun, or maybe it was, but like not in exactly the way they were laughing. I don't know, but yeah. So I don't think you're the you're the odd one out here. I think it's me.
But I'm not gonna be like oh no, like you're wrong. Like I get it's totally like a like whatever you feel.
Yes.
Because there were good scenes like when he was like I really like the recording on the TV. Especially when they kept playing it as well. Like they didn't like stop it.
Even just freezing on his face, and then it's just they're talking and he's in the background, and it's just like you just keep looking at it and you're like, fuck, he's a weird looking guy.
Yeah. No, exactly. But I guess I just wanted to like get away from the Nick Cage bit just now to this character. It's just like I just don't know what the motivations completely were. It just felt like he was just kind of crazy, but there are no like reasons or anything like that. You know,
this is absolutely my negatives as well, and this is something that this isn't in the film. I was wondering this, but kind of maybe towards the end it was, especially when he died, because that scene didn't particularly interest me because I could kind of see it coming, and I don't know, like the way he killed himself. I kind of figured he would. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm psychic as well. I just had a hunch, but I just figured that's what he was going to do, and then I didn't think they were going to do it, and then he did it, and I was like, oh, that's a shame because I would have actually liked a bit more of him towards the third act as well. But with I'm sure we'll get into the mum's motivations and stuff, but with the deal he struck with the mum, I don't know if it makes sense for him to kind of go and tamper with Lee, where he's like egging her on and being like, oh, can you find this? And oh, can you work out the clues? I'm not sure his motivation makes sense, given that his mum, her mum made a deal to like kill other people, that he's kind of going to fuck that up, you know?
Yeah.
But then it's one of those things where it's like, I guess you can have that as motivation all day, but if he's supposed to be crazy, maybe he just doesn't have a motivation. I don't know. But in a conventional sense of like, oh, character wants X, but like it felt a bit odd. Like, why is he doing what he's doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's maybe a repeat watch thing, or maybe someone in the comments can enlighten us to that. But I did find it a bit, I did struggle a bit towards the end to be like, why has this happened and why is it happening now and why is it being initiated by Nick Cage sort of thing? Because he left the letter for her, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
It
like,
was in her house. Yeah.
why did he do that? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Well, it's
actually
because
understand.
one of her birthday like lined up with the whole thing, right? So I would assume she was going to be on the list of people to die.
Well, no, she was on the list when she was a little girl. It was the fact she was on the list is why the mum does what she does.
Oh, right.
So he's already like allowed the kid to go free, like Lee to go free. Why is he now getting her back into it? Is he just playing games with her? I don't know, but like I just felt it was a bit strange, given that
Yeah.
they'd struck a deal. Like Nick Cage and the mum had struck a deal to like both do this together.
Because it's
Um,
not like the mum stopped doing it, or unless
no,
she
yeah,
did.
no, because the way the film ends, she's still doing it, right?
No, but I mean, like, was it clear that she was doing it throughout the film?
Uh,
Like, I don't
but
know.
I think
I don't know.
that's for us though, right? Not the characters.
Yeah.
I just
Because,
find it odd.
but I mean, the what families died? I don't know. This is so annoying because like I would have so many points like right after the film, but see, because it's been like a
Mm,
week or so later,
that's fair enough.
I'm misremembering some stuff. But like, because like there's a girl that's in like the carer home and she like commits suicide, right? But
Yes,
that's him. He visited her,
yes.
so that's got nothing to do with the mum.
No, that's got nothing to do with the other kids either, really.
Yeah, the mum's only around when she has to drop the doll off,
Yes.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah,
No,
I'm
that
not.
is a bit confusing.
But yeah, like I say, maybe if someone in the comments knows exactly what Nick Cage's motivations were, or if there were any, that why it makes sense that he's kind of egging on Lee to solve stuff. Um, Now, why he's going into
Yeah,
her house and giving her letters, why is he like threatening her and stuff like that? Why now, sort of thing. Why didn't, if he was just gonna like, I don't know if his plan was to kill her or what, but or just to freak her out or just like progress the word of Satan. I don't know, but yeah, I was a bit confused at that. I mean, I don't think it. I don't know. I don't know if it breaks the film in hindsight, but it doesn't break the film in the moment anyway.
no, no.
Um, but yeah, to be fair, I totally missed the hype for this film. I didn't even know Nick Cage was in it until you told me. I don't know what rock I was under, but
Honestly, I just saw it on Instagram one day, and then since then it was just everywhere. I was like, well, just like okay.
yeah, my stream was really busy as well. But the I didn't think this was particularly different for Nick. It was a different role, but him in the role wasn't particularly different from what he normally does. I thought it was just Nick Cage in a serial killer role doing his thing. Um, and I'm okay with that. I quite liked it.
Yeah, yeah,
It almost felt like had someone else like a Jim Carrey or I don't know, like a Pee Wee Herman or whatever the fuck. If they got someone like them, it would have been them doing that role. It felt like Nick Cage had a lot of control over what he was doing to the point where when I came out the film, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was only on set for like a day and they just dressed him up and was just like, right, roll it. You know,
yeah.
what's he gonna do?
Bro.
What is he doing?
I'm pretty sure he produced the film, so
Right, okay,
he probably did have control
that makes
over
sense.
some stuff.
But it did
I've,
feel
in
like,
fact, speaking of which, I've
yeah.
seen I've got this like trivia thing on IMDb, and it says Nick Cage and Oz Perkins, the director, made this movie as a tribute to their mothers. I'm like, that says a lot about their bloody mothers. Jesus Christ! Like,
Maybe scratch that off your IMDb, Nick. Yeah.
honestly,
Just hope your mum's not watching. Uh,
yeah.
um,
So,
I guess another positive. I don't even know if it's a positive. I liked it, so it's a positive. But it's hard to explain. It's maybe just my taste. Is I think the dolls are a bit wacky, and they're definitely underbaked as an idea.
I don't like the metal sphere. That was too supernatural for me, and the film didn't feel like we were getting to that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I didn't
but
like that.
the dolls themselves,
Honestly, that's
actually,
probably my main negative is that whole magic thing.
yes, and I think that all the stuff involving Lee and how it interacts with maybe her power of like general psychic stuff, and like the doll at the end where she's kind of stunned when the ball, like you say, like they hit the ball or whatever.
Yeah,
Uh, that stuff, yeah, that's probably the worst part of that. I think in my like perfect version of this film, you don't even honestly, because the scariest bit about the dolls for me was when they were under the cloak and you just see the eyes kind of glow underneath.
yeah, yeah,
And I almost wish that you never saw the dolls in the girls' houses. You only ever saw them under the cloak, and then the only doll we see in the film is the one that they find. You know, so we're like we can only
yeah.
guess what the dolls look like, but they maintain that kind of creep factor under the hood.
Hmm.
That would have been like my perfect version because I guess like coming back to the Quiet Place stuff, I just don't like seeing the monster, and I know these aren't the monster, but I don't like seeing too much of the supernatural. I like very like the edge of the supernatural,
Or just
and
like
yeah,
Nick Cage. Like I preferred it when his face was like cut off at the start of the film,
yeah,
or when he's driving and his hair's in the way, or you know that sort of thing. Like I prefer
but
that because I think when you do see his whole face, it does kind of look a little bit funny. So it's like so because he's just Nick Cage still. You
yeah,
can see it's him.
but
Yeah,
yeah, I do like that they kind of took a swing though, where they're like, right, the devil is. It's implied the devil's real, and that the people worshiping him actually have some power. Um,
mm,
and that these dolls are somewhat supernatural and lead these people to kill their own families. It's not something you can guess, but it's also like I don't know. It was weirdly satisfying in a way where I'm like, I don't think I've seen something. Again, this might be my inexperience, but I don't think I've seen something like with horror. But I don't think I've seen something in a while that's just like kind of embraces the supernatural in such like an open-armed way, but doesn't ever really look at it too directly. You know,
yeah.
I really like the way they went about it. But yeah, I think my perfect version would be just like don't like cover the dolls up, keep them covered up because they were fucking freaky when their eyes were like you could see the eyes under the hood.
Oh yeah,
That was
100%.
so
Yeah.
creepy. And if they just kept that, that would have just played with my mind. And I'm almost glad they didn't because I don't have nightmares now. But if they had kept them under the hood, I'd have been thinking about them 24/7.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything like I'm not. Yeah, I think Nick Cage going out like killing himself. It felt a bit like Talk to Me when the kid does the same thing.
Yeah.
That's probably where the idea came from in my head, where I was like, I think that's how he's going to go out. But it's one of those things where it did take me out a little bit because I was just thinking, like, why didn't they just handcuff him, tie him down, or why didn't she call and get someone in there quicker? Like, why was he allowed to do this for so long? It felt a bit odd, but um, I mean, fair enough. If that's how he goes out, he goes out. I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah. Like I said, my main complaint is like his motivations and like why he does certain things and
Yeah.
all that.
Um,
I,
and
I
I do
assume
think
he killed himself so they couldn't get more information out of him.
I don't even know if it's that. I think he's just fucking batshit, and he's just like, my job's done. I freaked out the police enough.
Hail Satan.
I'll
Just
say it. I'm
pumped
gone.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair,
Um,
the practical effects for it.
yes, and he's just. I mean, I actually thought his performance was really, really well done. I
It's
mean,
acquired
like I
taste.
say, yeah, I think it is probably quite is. But like I say, it is. I don't think it's something groundbreaking for Nick Cage as an actor, though. I think it's just his thing in a new role for me
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, he was in that was it Pig? I've not seen that, so I don't know what he's like in those films.
I haven't seen Big. I mean, well,
Jay's
okay,
our friend Jay's seen them.
maybe a correction. Maybe maybe it's new for me to see Nick Cage in a role like
Well, yeah,
this.
but I think this is his first mainstream
Right.
film like this. I don't think Pig was. I think Nick Pig was like a Netflix film or something. So yeah, no, it's definitely different for sure.
Why don't we get to the third act a bit then? Because my
Yeah,
line here is the final act is a bit of a mess.
kind of over the place.
One big part of that for me is that the supporting cast are pretty poor, and the way they go out. I will say the agent, the Asian woman, the way she goes out is actually really cool. I know. Again,
It's freaking
not
demolished.
it's not particularly like unpredictable, but just the way it was framed, and then like the mum's in the background, but you can't see her, and then she moves, and then
Yeah,
you see her. Like that was really well shot, but I just didn't care about her character. She was only in it for like a few minutes before that scene.
because she seemed nice.
Yeah,
So
but even on the drive to the house, I'm like, right, if shit goes down, she's gone. You know, like
yeah.
she's not making out of this scene, and she didn't,
Did
and
you
it's
know it
like,
was going to be the mum?
yes, and I'll tell you
Did,
why.
I
Do
think
you,
I know the. I think I know
do
the
you,
same.
Do you want me to know? Do you want me to tell you exactly when? Because there's a point in the film where it can no longer be anyone else. There's
Go
two
for it.
reasons, and one's the same as Chimere in in the Acolyte, is that it can't really be anyone else.
That's exactly my point. Yeah, it's like you've introduced one weird person. It's like
And
it's got to be her.
we kind of said that about FNAF last week as well, as you only ever introduced Afton, so it can only be him.
Yes,
But
yes, yeah.
this one is as soon as you figure out that Lee is the little girl.
Which I kind of knew from the start, honestly.
Yes.
Did you?
Well, I think you assume it, but you don't know it for certain. I'm talking
Right.
about, like, in this film, there's a bit where you can know for certain is as soon as you know that her birthday, because you can assume that Nick Cage came to her house and met Lee, but you don't know that she's one of the girls, right?
Because I can't. The part that confirmed it for me is when she had to ask her mum, like, what happened that day. I'm like, oh,
Right.
must be that day she's talking about.
Because
Yeah.
as soon as you know her birthday is the 14th, you know she was one of the girls planned to be killed. But the fact she's alive means that there was a deal struck, right? Because she's not dead.
Yeah.
Because otherwise Nick Cage, because the thing is, the mum doesn't have any weapon in the intro scene. It's just Nick Cage, the little girl, and the mum. There's nothing else there to tell you that she can defend her. Which means Nick Cage is probably going to kill them both if he can, you know? So I guess the proof of that is like, as soon as you know that Lee's the little girl that's supposed to die, you know the mum had to strike a deal with Nick Cage. I don't know exactly what she was doing because of that deal, but you knew that the mum had to be complicit.
Right.
So I didn't know that she was the one setting up the other families, but I knew that she had to be helping or like had struck some sort of deal of like, you can't take my girl sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't know I didn't know what she'd done, but I knew that the mum was complicit, maybe even doing them, you know, at minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And you find out pretty early in the film, right? Maybe like halfway through that Lee's like one of the little girls, or like that her birthday's the 14th, something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because
yeah. So
they do a background check on her.
yeah, and that twist doesn't. I don't think that twist works particularly well.
Honestly, I didn't view it as a twist. I just thought it was kind of
I guess so.
just because I always assumed she was a girl from the start. So it's just like
I think that's more the scene where it happens is framed like a twist. So it seems
Right.
like they want to be a twist, even though I agree with you that it never really felt like one to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking of which, actually, I like that detective guy as well.
which detective guy?
Her main one.
Oh, Carter.
Yeah.
I
that.
I actually disagree. I don't think his acting was that great.
Oh, really?
And I think some of his dialogue was a bit generic and kind of underbaked. And actually, by the end of the film, I kind of wish we'd seen a lot more of him, given that he's so important to kind of the climax. Because I found myself not really caring about him or his family either. Like,
yeah, I guess because I guess for the film, I was like, when is she going to this birthday party? She's been invited. And it's like, oh, it's the end of the film. I don't know. I guess I just like their dynamic. I guess because I'm currently writing a sort of like investigator thing, and they've got not a similar dynamic at all, but it's like the old experiencer guy and the young recruit. That's kind of like the vibe I'm going with for my one. So it was kind of interesting to see this one, but also like he wasn't really doing much of the work. He was letting her kind of just cook.
yeah.
Just let her cook. I don't know, and I think he just has some funny moments where he's just like, "No, you're gonna meet my kid and wife." And it's like,
Oh yeah,
like, okay.
yeah. There was some funny bits where she's like, "Do I have to?" And he's like, "Yes, yes, you have
Yes,
to."
and then she comes in, and it's just so awkward.
Yeah.
But no, fair enough. I'm not like strongly.
I think just
For
given
it.
how, I think if he'd just not appeared again, fair enough, because he's a background character. But then because he's so important to that final act, and like he's one of the families that this then happens to, I just wish I'd had more care about him, so
Which,
that
to be
when
fair, like we should have clocked that because like the girl was clearly like 14 or whatever, however she was, and her birthday was coming up. So it's like I didn't even clock like, oh, it's going to be his kid that's going to die soon.
no, yeah, I didn't clock that either. Yeah,
I didn't clock that till right now. I was like, wait a minute, they set it up.
I will say there was something else about him. There's one like because she hides the letter, right? So she gets a letter from Longlegs early in the film in her cabin. And the letter basically says, if you tell anyone you got this letter, I'll kill your mum, I'll kill you, you're done, right? So she doesn't tell anyone. And Agent Carter, there's a scene where they're talking together and he's like, you're not telling me something. I know you're not telling me something. And then it kind of gets dropped. And it was kind of one of those threads where I was like, oh, when's that coming back? And it never really does. There's no conflict behind she's hiding things from her superior. They never deal with that. I was a bit confused, like, why they even kind of brought up that. I guess it's maybe just, I don't know, because why wouldn't she bring, like, what happens in the film that means she can't bring it up, that she got a letter? I guess it's just for us, so that we don't realize she's the little girl until later. No, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That felt a bit odd to me, that
Because
there is no conflict
she
between her and
needed the
Carter.
letter so she could decipher the codes, right? That's I imagine that's like movie wise, the reason why she got the letter is to help establish how she could do that. So when they went to the next crime scene, she was able to decipher the message right away because she spent all night figuring it out, and the whole triangle thing and all that. See with like mystery stuff like that, it's so hard for me to like remember the details because it's so much information. But like I get the gist of it. But yeah, I guess they just wanted to move on with it because I can't remember if the scene just went straight into the next crime scene where you
I
see
think
like all the maggots on the people and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think they pretty much did.
I think it was that. Yeah.
I think this.
I'm a bit confused why she allowed him to die though. Was it just because he was already gone? Like his mind was already messed up, so it's like, all right, there's no going back. We might as well just let. But then his wife died, so it's like she literally just let that happen, and then
I
she
think
killed her mum.
I interpreted it more as this thing's been going on a long time, and if this stops happening, then something bad's going to happen with the devil, almost. Like, because I thought it was like some sort of like repentance where she was kind of promised to the devil by Nick Cage, and because she wasn't given, you now need to give all these other families to the devil, otherwise the devil's going to come after Lee. So,
But the kid didn't die though.
well, yeah, she kind of breaks that, right? But
Yeah, it's like her wife, like Jesus, just let her freaking eat it. Just
eat
like,
it, yeah. I mean, well, I guess because the mum said something along the lines of like, "Oh, the kid's not taken yet, right? Like, it's got the wife, it's got the dad." Maybe you're right. Maybe it was just like an inevitability thing. Like, even if you destroy this thing now, he's going to kill her no matter what.
yeah,
But then I don't know why she didn't just shoot him in the head. But
I don't know. Like I said, the third act's a bit messy. So
again, if you can enlighten us in the comments, that would be wonderful.
I mean, I'm gonna watch a freaking breakdown video after
Yeah, that's true, yeah. But it's good for the algorithm if they put stuff in.
yeah.
So I'm editing that out. Screw you. I think yeah, I don't know. The psychic stuff still doesn't gel with me super well because they do deal with it in a cool way at the start, where, like you say, it's more of a hunch, but then people are like, "Oh, you're psychic! Like, what the fuck? That's so weird," and people are kind of like dealing with it in a realistic way. But then it doesn't really come back into things ever again. I mean, she gets like an occasional like a flow comes over her where she's like something's wrong, and like that's when she'll like clue up that, oh, there's something here, like a presence.
There was a funny bit where they were like investigating this house, like where they were about to find a doll, but they're investigating this house, and she turns around and she's like, over there. And it's like it pans to this freaking barn, and like the lights are on and everything. I'm like, why wasn't it the first place you freaking searched? Like, cause you was in some kind of abandoned looking home first. It's like, Jesus. So that's not a hunch. That's just really common sense.
Yeah.
Just
But I think the psychic things kind of confuse me because again, there's a version of this film I can see where there's no psychic behavior on Lee's part at all, and the film doesn't really change all that much.
Yeah.
It's like you can just have her mum knock her out in the final act or something. Like I don't think you need. I don't know where the psychic. I'm assuming the psychic behavior comes from something to do with the doll and that she was promised to the devil, or something like that. But I find it odd that it's brought up as like, oh, she's psychic, but then it's only really referred to in the first case in a major way, and like occasionally she gets like I know it's set up that like this isn't a superpower, like she only occasionally gets glimmers of things, but then why even bring it up? Almost, I don't know.
I guess that's why she was assigned the case in the first place, right? Just because she had this good hunch. So it's like, all right, maybe you can help us with this kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just trying to make answers for them at this point. But yeah, I mean, either way, like we still really enjoyed the
Yes,
film
and
overall. You know what I mean? Like I'm still giving it like I think I don't know what I'm giving it because I gave like Dune an 8, and I think Dune's better.
okay.
So I'm having to like kind of land on a 7 roughly, which is like a few dual stuff, Planet of
I
the Apes
think
2.
I'd give Dune 2 probably around a 9.
Yeah,
So I'm probably going to give that maybe a little bit bigger than a 9, but I'm probably going to give this about an 8.5.
yeah, that's
Um,
fair. That's fair.
I also think maybe I'd like to hear your thought on that as well, but on this as well. But I feel like I could rewatch this film as well. I
I
feel
would 100% me. I would get the watch party for the boys and watch this on
yeah,
Netflix.
I feel like this is
100%.
a pretty rewatchable film,
Yeah.
uh, which I don't always think about films alike, you know.
Hmm.
But yeah, I could definitely see myself like when this comes out on DVD, like getting it probably like not long after it comes out and watching it a few times a year or
Yeah,
whatever. And
for
really
sure.
good stuff, like especially shots. It's really good. I think especially the thing I took out of it probably mostly was the tension was really great,
It's just a well-made film. Yeah,
and
just
it's really really well made. Yeah,
is.
and I had a look at the cinematographer and stuff on IMDb. I don't think he's done anything like in a major way in Hollywood. He's done a few projects, but like man, whoever responsible, like I'm assuming it's cinematographer, but whoever responsible for the way this film looked, get them a fucking job, man. It looked really good.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah,
Low budget as
generally,
well, so it's like fair play.
yeah, and I think it's been doing really well, right?
Let me get actually. Yeah, let me look this up actually. Yeah. So what? The budget was like 10 million roughly.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So
I
gives
almost
him
wanted
a
some.
job as well.
I guess this is just a side thought. I almost wanted some insight into like why his name's Longlegs.
I guess just because he's tall.
I thought that too, yeah. But
Yeah.
then I almost wanted to like because Longlegs is kind of a weird. I almost thought it was like Daddy Longlegs, you know. I thought that's what going in. It was going to be something like his name was derived from like a Daddy Longlegs, but
Let's see.
I don't know.
So it made so far 30 million, which sounds low, but considering the budget's 10 million, they've tripled their budget. So that's actually really good. All things
Depending on
considered.
marketing costs, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, definitely, I would definitely recommend Longlegs. I'm a big fan.
for sure.
Uh,
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
and I think that
Unless
might
you've
be
got
all.
like some like things with like Robert, for example, he's got a big fear of like Satan and stuff like that. So like that's not he's not gonna watch this film.
Where you said
So,
that you said that like he was like Todd Flanders, like
but like no, but he hates like the whole like culty thing. That's not his vibe.
right.
So if you're
That,
not into that, then
to be
it's not for
fair,
you. Like I
I
said, I
kind of
didn't know that going in. You know, I thought it was just gonna be like the serial killer
yeah, me
kind
too.
of
Yeah,
thing, nothing cult related.
but I'm a big fan
But
of that
yeah,
kind of Stephen King. Like there is definitely supernatural elements that are very overt, but they're not dealt with in an overt way.
you know what? It was very Stephen King, wasn't it? I didn't clock that. It does feel very Stephen King with the added like psychic abilities and stuff like that. It's very
Yeah,
like Carrie esque, you
and
know?
I'm a big Stephen King fan. So
Yeah.
this is to be fair, if I was gonna make like if there was a perfect version of like Pet Cemetery, it would be this kind of tone. What I would be going for.
Mm.
Pet Cemetery is a fucking fantastic book, but I haven't seen any of the films. But like if I would imagine like a good version of this film, like at its worst, like the worst moments for the characters feels like how tense this film feels, and like general.
Right, right.
I mean, obviously the family and that's a bit nicer, but oh yeah, but yeah, so yeah, it's a film that I think you can pick apart a little bit. Maybe we're just misunderstanding things, but I feel like I can pick it apart after the fact. But in the moment, it really does like hook you in, and you stay with it, and it's really really fun.
Yeah, there was literally no moment where I was like out of the film. You know, I was zoned in the whole time. I was never like bored or anything like that,
But
which
yeah,
is kind of good for like a mystery thriller film. Something there's usually like a dip in those type of films.
yeah. So
Yeah,
big kudos, and
for sure.
I think that might be our episode today.
Yeah,
Um,
cheeky two movies.
couple of films. So yeah, so we'll be doing this every week, hopefully. And yeah, check back in with us next week, see what we've seen. And I mean, guess stick any recommendations down in the comments as well. If films like the ones we've talked about today and based on
Mm.
our opinions would be nice. A bit of engagement. So yeah. yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Hey.